Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes,
He's going for it.
Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it. One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello, welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and what a night it was down in DC as the Philadelphia Union once again demolished DC United by a score of 6-0. I mean, that is unbelievable to see a team lose 13-0 in 2 games. That is unheard of, and it was just fantastic from the Sons of Ben, bringing the noise from before the game even started, marching into the stadium. I mean, you can tell that this place was going to be crowded with Philadelphia Union fans. And I arrived to the stadium super early, earlier than when I normally get to Subaru Park. And just walking around the area, just noticing all these Union fans. I mean, my sister and I went to the DC United vs. Philadelphia Union game in 2021. And yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to see the type of game that happened last night. But there definitely weren't as many Union fans in 2021 like there were last night. I mean, obviously, you had the Sons of Ben section. You had over 60 fans in that section. And then you just look from the press box area, just look around the whole stadium. You see those light blue jerseys just scattered around the whole stadium. I mean, there were a ton of Union fans. And so I just got to applaud every single Philadelphia Union fan that was there. All the Sons of Ben members that were there, bringing the noise from before the game even started, like I said, all the way up until after the game when the players come over to the away fans and applaud them. They clap. Jim Curtin gets the crowd riled up. It was just a fantastic sight to see. And you could tell that it really meant a lot to these players, to Jim Curtin, to see all these Union fans in the stadium. Jim Curtin said after the game that it felt like it was a home game. We knew we were in DC, but with all those fans in the stadium, they really made it feel like we were back at Subaru Park. And I think, too, I don't know how many fans know this, but Richie Leverich, one of the minority owners, Jay Sugarman, they were both at the stadium for the match. And I don't know, I was saying to a couple guys in the press box, I was like, not that this team needs any pressure, but do you think that brings pressure to the team to perform on the field, knowing that you have your majority owner and one of the minority owners in the stadium? They traveled down here to come watch you guys play. And I don't know, I feel like that does bring a little bit of pressure. I mean, I'm sure Jim Curtin was aware that they were in the stadium before the game happened. But after the game, I know Jay and Richard went into the locker room and congratulated all the players, talked to Jim for a while, and you'd love to put up those kind of performances when ownership's in attendance. And again, I mean, I just can't stress this enough. It was fantastic hearing the Sons of Ben just all game long. Those guys were super loud. And if you guys were down there in DC, be proud of yourself. You guys created a fantastic atmosphere. And that's what I'm hoping to experience in Atlanta when I go down. Hopefully a ton of Union fans go down. It was nice when I went to Cincinnati, had a decent amount of fans, but hopefully we can draw more fans in Atlanta than we did in Cincinnati. But wow, what a away crowd it was in DC last night. And on my way back home, nobody told me to do this, right? I was thinking this on my ride home, just Matt DeGeorge, Greg Oldfield, 2 guys that cover the Philadelphia Union for Delco Times and the Brotherly Game. I mean, I was telling Greg, I'm fortunate where I live in the middle between Philadelphia and DC. But you have DeGeorge, you have Greg coming an hour 45, 2+ hours to the stadium to cover this team. And if you guys aren't following the work that they do, like I said, for Delco Times, the Brotherly Game, support them. Tannenwald with the Inquirer. You have Joe Tanzi, I know, doing stuff with Fox Sports The Gambler. We really do have tremendous writers that cover this team. And, what makes me even more proud is I'll see on social media where I'll use New York Red Bulls for an example where their local media does not cover the team at all. It's podcasters or people that freelance. They cannot get the local media to cover that team at all. And to see, yeah, we do have local writers that are covering the Philadelphia Union, that are going to practice during the week to get interviews, constantly showing up on Zoom for the away games, constantly there for the home games. I mean, that should make you guys proud that, okay, yeah, we might be disappointed, we might be angry that local sports radio doesn't give the Union the credit that they deserve, but what we have in Philadelphia is a lot better than it is in a lot of these MLS markets where you're getting consistent coverage. You're having different people give different opinions. You're having tons of podcasts out there, and it's great to have choices and support all those podcasts too. I mean, I appreciate you guys listening to this podcast, reading my match previews, but Doopy Brothers, Duke by the River, Kevin Kincaid, It's Always Soccer in Philadelphia, Views from the Bridge. You have so many great choices of Union podcasts with people giving different opinions, people seeing the game maybe differently than how others see it. But my whole thing is you're getting consistent coverage. And when you look around MLS, that is not happening everywhere. And so what we have in Philadelphia is truly special. And yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, this is really dedication to see these people travel so far away. And again, I'll go back to the fans where a lot of you guys are traveling 2+ hours to get down to Washington, D.C. for this match. And it just made me extremely happy to see that people do care about this team. People are showing up week in, week out to make it be known that Philadelphia has one of, if not the best team in Major League Soccer. And if sports radio doesn't want to talk about it, that's fine. If the television stations don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Because we have dedicated people that have been doing this for such a long time. You have people that are just getting onto the scene. They're new and they're dedicated. They're ready to cover this team the best they can. And so support those people. Let's not worry about the radio stations, the TV stations, not covering this team, not giving this team the props that they deserve while we already have people that are doing such a fantastic job covering the team. But yeah, I just want to throw that out there real quick. And like I said, nobody told me to say that. I was literally moving slow in traffic coming in from DC and just thinking late at night. And I was like, yeah, this is something truly special seeing all these people travel so far away coming down to support this team. So again, I just applaud everybody that was down there last night. And we'll get into the news. We'll obviously talk about this DC United versus Philadelphia Union game. We'll go ahead and review my keys to the game that I wrote about on my blog on Saturday. 3 stars. We'll give goal breakdowns, and then we'll give a blunder of the week. But there isn't a ton of news to talk about. I have so much to talk about this game. And look, I know Rich Laurie, I know you DM'd me before and said, look, when the Union play DC United and you can't get the game because of blackouts and you want some goal clips, just go ahead and DM me and I'll go ahead and send you over the clips and everything. So yeah, I do not have those clips. So I'm just going to, when I do the goal breakdown, I'm just going to go ahead and review what they have posted on YouTube. But without further ado, let's just get straight into the news. All right, so really only 2 bits of news that I want to get to. And this is one that concerns the Union for a couple of weeks. and that is Orlando City announced that Alexandre Pato has returned to his home country of Brazil and will undergo exploratory surgery on his right knee. It was announced today. The surgery will be performed on September 9th, with the forward's initial recovery also to be held in Brazil. Pato sustained the injury on August 13th at New York Red Bulls. A timetable for Pato's return is not immediately available. And again, that's important because the Union take on Orlando City in September. I believe it's September 2nd. I'm not looking at the schedule. I think it's September 2nd. I know it's a Saturday. But you do feel bad for Pato, as he has had a ton of injury problems in his career. There's a player that was thought as the next superstar coming out of Brazil. And if you guys haven't read his Player Tribune article that he did, I think a couple weeks or couple months ago on the Player Tribune, I'll go ahead and link that in the show description. But Pato was describing the expectations coming out of Brazil for him, the injury problems that he had, how it didn't really work out for him in Chelsea, how maybe the expectations got to him a little bit, and it was really, really touching. And I think it's something that more players should touch on is, get their thoughts out there. And so I applaud Pato for being so real and so emotional in that article that he wrote with the Players Tribune. And I believe I talked about that before in the past here on the podcast, but if not, you guys should definitely check that out. Make sure you check it out in the show description. But I mean, he is not the same guy that he was at AC Milan. I think we all know that. I was a little bit surprised to see Orlando City give him a new contract for this upcoming season after he dealt with injuries last year for Orlando City, but they felt confident enough that, hey, look, you're not going to cost us DP money. You're not going to be super expensive. And we know if we can get you fit that you make a difference for this team. And at times during the season, he has made a difference. I go back to the game where Orlando City took on Atlanta United, and in the last 20 minutes of that game, it was all Atlanta United. Atlanta United eventually get the game tying goal in the second half in that game. And it's like, okay, well, Orlando were dominating this game for a majority of the time. But then once we got into the 91st, 92nd minute, out of nothing, Orlando City come down after just being pinned down in their own defensive half. And they hit the post with Pato. And Pato starts the whole play, collects the ball at the halfway line, and starts the counterattack for Orlando City. Dribbles by a guy and then shot from distance hits the post. And this is a guy who you can tell has all the ability in the world, but it's just, can he stay healthy? And like I said, I mean, this is one Union fans should just remember for when Orlando City comes to Subaru Park in September. Pato won't be there. This is a huge loss for them. A player that makes a difference coming off the bench still has started for Orlando City at times this season and's been better than what he was last season. So this is a huge loss for Orlando City to lose a player as talented, as inspirational as Alexander Pato. But the last bit of news I want to talk about is Djordje Mihailovic is nearing a move to AZ Alkmaar in the Netherlands. The fee is reported to be $6 million plus a sell-on clause. Montreal want to keep Mihailovic on loan for the rest of the season, but that is not possible because MLS's window is closed now. And so, yes, MLS teams can sell players still because the window's open in Europe. But if Montreal were to sell Mihailovic and then he was going to come on loan to Montreal for the rest of the season, that would essentially be a quote-unquote new signing for Montreal, even though Mihailovic was their player, even though he's not going to play for AZ, but because they're transferring him out and then he would be transferred back in, and because MLS's window shut, they couldn't have Mihailovic anymore. This is interesting to note because, and I know I said last episode, I don't want to talk about Kai Wagner going to Leeds anymore, but this is interesting to note for Union fans because, yes, we were talking about last week on the podcast, should the Union sell Kai Wagner and then loan him back? Should they make the deal permanent now? Should they sell him in January? Well, the Union cannot sell Kai Wagner to Leeds United or anybody else and then loan him back in because MLS's window is shut. It would be like a brand new signing for the Philadelphia Union, even though Kai Wagner's a Union player. And so the only options are the Union sell Kai Wagner now and he's gone permanently, or they sell him in the winter. There is no loan back. And so I think that does make a difference for the Union, how much money they're going to get for Kai Wagner. And, we're nearing the end of the window. The rumors have died down. And like Jim Curtin and Ernst Tanner have been saying, yes, there's always been rumors, but we've never received an official bid. And so that's just something to keep in mind as Union fans, that Kai Wagner can't be loaned back in because MLS window shut. And I think that caught a lot of people by surprise when it was announced that, yes, Montreal are open to selling Mihailovic, but they want him back on loan. And then people started realizing, wait, that can't happen because MLS's window is shut. And that's a quote-unquote new signing. And so that would be a huge blow for Montreal. One of the best players, 11 goals, 20 assists, and 54 appearances for Montreal since he came over from Chicago Fire. With a team that's fighting for one of the top spots in the Eastern Conference, they can't afford to lose Mihailovic. Yeah, it's a lot of money to turn down. Yeah, it's a huge risk where if they don't make this deal permanent right now, there's always a chance that he could potentially get hurt. And that $6 million plus a selling clause, it could all disappear. But again, I thought it was interesting to note that Union fans want to see a loan back in for Kai Wagner, but that just can't happen. And AZ, if you guys are familiar with the club, that's a club where Josie Altidore left MLS from to go to when he initially left MLS at the beginning of his career. So not the first time that they've come in for MLS talent. But let's go ahead and talk about that DC United versus Philadelphia Union game. And this game, man, this game, like we said, 13 goals between the two games on the season between these two teams. I mean, that is unheard of. My sister was texting me and she was like, man, I hope they destroy DC United. And I'm like, yeah, that would definitely be funny. I don't know if that's really going to happen because they've looked better defensively under Wayne Rooney. But yeah, it was kind of the same old, like we saw in Subaru Park. DC United, they were missing a couple key defenders. They had to play Poulsen, their new midfield signing from Schalke, as one of the center backs. And I think that he made a strong case that he should never play as a center back ever again. We'll get to Romo. Trust me, a terrible goalkeeping performance from him all night long. But, this game couldn't have started any worse for the Union. I feel like for the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, and Jim Curtin also mentioned that in his press conference. I mean, in the third minute, you had a potential handball on Jack Elliott that wasn't given. And yes, we've seen them given in the past, but the way I look at it is, all right, had a similar situation happen against Dallas where the ball hit Jack Elliott's hand. The referee did not give the penalty, and they didn't give the penalty either in this game. And so that's what you want to see. You want to see consistency in this league. You want to see them, go to VAR if they think that it is a potential penalty. And so to see the referees back-to-back games make the consistent call that, hey, look, yes, the ball does hit his arm, but it's in a natural position. Jack Elliott's trying to get that hand, that arm out of the way. He doesn't extend his body, which if he would have, 100% it's a penalty. But you see him try to move his arm away, and the ball still strikes him. And so to see the referee say no penalty, just like they did in the Dallas game, Yeah, I applaud the referees. I mean, we know that the refereeing isn't the most consistent in the league. We know that they get the calls wrong a lot of the time. But back to back weeks, back to back games where we see the referees be consistent, make the right call. Now, would we be angry as Union fans if this was against the Union? If the Union had a potential penalty and it wasn't given? Maybe, but for me, that's not a penalty. And the big thing is, I'm just happy to see the consistency with the referee. And then you go ahead and look. Just the Union had poor passing, and the 15-20 minute mark where it was just pressure after pressure from DC United. You have Andre Blake make a huge save on Rival Morrison in the 16th minute. You have a poor clearance from Jacob Glesnes that went straight to Taxi Funtas, who hit the post in the 19th minute. And I know the away game in Cincinnati, the away game in Dallas, they weren't great performances from Jacob Glesnes. Those two performances were potentially his worst ever in a Union jersey. And then you have that giveaway, like I said, to Taxi Funtas. You're like, oh man, like what is going on with Jacob Glesnes on the road? Yes, he looks great at home, but on the road, he's just playing uncharacteristically bad. But the Union don't let that pressure affect them. They come right out. They're getting beat up. They're bending, but they're not breaking. That's something that Jim Curtin says all the time. And you got to give the Union credit for and just that pressure for not bending, not breaking. And the Union could have been down 2-0 within the first 20 minutes of this game. And Jim Curtin was asked, about that pressure, how his team was caught off guard, how DC United, they gave everything within the first 20 minutes of this game.
You could feel too, I don't know if it translated on TV, but you could feel down low. They put a ton into the first 20 minutes of the game, like a ton. So they were a little bit fatigued after that too, because they were flying. And credit to them, they came out really, really fast. Caught us off guard quite a bit, and like I said, a couple plays or bounces here or there, and we're picking the ball out of the back of our own net, and it's big trouble on the road to try to come back. So we kind of weathered the storm, got a little lucky, to be honest. And I told the guys that at halftime. But then to have the resiliency for, again, Mikel to make a play, we started to realize if we just connected two passes, all of a sudden, we'd find ourselves in almost a 1v1 in space. And I think we made some plays in the end of the first half and then the second half quite a bit where, they're pushing the game and leaving themselves exposed a bit. So overall, it's a fine line. The games can go either way, and we challenged the group at halftime, and incredible response from the guys. So many guys had good performances, and it's a team in the sense that if they all don't play good, we don't have a chance. So again, I use the Dallas game. Everybody, wasn't themselves. I think in that game we were okay. You'd call it a decent performance, but not enough. And I think on the road you have to have all your players play well, and I think these guys understood that.
Yeah, and Jim Curtin, I was going to ask him about that, just the resiliency of Julian Carranza, who had a couple attempts in the first half that he should have done better with putting those shots on target. Probably should have had a goal or two in the first half. And Jim Curtin did mention after the press conference, he's like, yeah, Julian probably should have 5 goals on this game. We know he gets the hat trick. Well done to Julian, but if you want to be overcritical, he should have had 5 goals on this game, especially in the first half where his teammates set him up perfectly. Where you look in the 28th minute after the Union were just taking all that pressure from DC United, you see Jose Martinez, who's, spoiler alert, one of my 3 stars on the night. You see him just with this outstanding pass that takes out the whole midfield of DC United. The ball finds its way to Mikel, who then has a nice pass to Julian Carranza, who sees his shot blocked. The Union were building a lot of pressure within 2-3 minutes after taking all that pressure from DC United. It's like, all right, the morale's probably down for DC United, where they just can't get a goal. The last time that they scored was against Orlando City in that 2-1 debut victory for Wayne Rooney, where Taxi Funtas scores a late goal. And I believe they had 2 late goals in that game, DC United. So They just cannot buy a goal, and to see them hit the post with Taxi, to see Rafael Morrison get himself in a good position to score, should have scored. Andre Blake comes up with a big save. He made light work of the midfield and defense of the Union, but they just cannot buy a goal. And the Union, they bent. They surely did break, but they did well to not concede. And right after they dealt with that pressure, then they're just coming down, attacking DC. And once that first goal came, it's like, okay, the floodgates are going to be open. And that's exactly what happened. And I asked Jim Curtin, I'm not going to play the clip, but I asked him because right after the Union were taking that pressure from DC, you saw them sending in a couple crosses into the box for Romeo, where he had to come and punch the ball. He looked uncomfortable, where the Union were putting 3-4 guys around him inside the box. And Jim said, yeah, we scout. And the data says that he spills a lot of balls. And so we wanted to get pressure around him to make him as uncomfortable as possible. And you saw on the night, terrible goalkeeping performance from him. But yeah, it was nice to see that the Union had a game plan and they stuck with it. They try to make Remo as uncomfortable as possible. That's why you saw the Union take so many shots from outside the box, because this guy is not comfortable saving the ball. And so I think the Union's plan to this game worked perfectly. You look at the Union's front three just in the first half, but I mean, the whole game in general, they're looking for those quick passes, trying to get in behind United's back line. Mikel Ua multiple times had the center backs beat for DC United, but people weren't picking their heads up for the Union fast enough, finding that ball over the top to Mikel. At times they did find it. Second half, they were definitely a lot better with that pass, but in the first half, yeah, I mean, you could tell that the strikers were making the right runs, but the team was definitely caught off guard from the pressure. They, to DC United's credit, they made the Union uncomfortable, didn't give the Union a ton of time on the ball, and after the Union figured out, like Jim said, we need to get these 1-2 passes going, and once we do, that's when success happened. And you look at the chemistry between Mikel, Daniel Gazlang, and Julian Carranza. 13 goals, 8 assists on the season now for Daniel. Julian Carranza, 12 goals, 7 assists. Mikel has 9 goals, 4 assists. That's a total of 34 goals and 19 assists between the three of them. Yes, you can definitely make the argument that they're the most dominant front three in MLS. I still would probably give that to Cincinnati, which I think will make a lot of Union fans cringe. But yeah, I mean, I put the Union's front three up there with the best. If you want to say the Union's front three is the best, yeah, I'm not gonna say you're wrong. They're up there. I think the reason I have Cincinnati as my number one is just because you guys know I love Pat Noonan. A little bit surprised to see things work out as quickly as they have in Cincinnati, which I don't know why I'm so surprised. And like every time that I look at my preseason predictions, I kick myself for not buying into Pat Noonan. But to see Acosta just get back to the form that he once had when he was with DC United, potentially even better. To see Brandon Vasquez, who was written off with Atlanta United, a striker that looked like, yeah, all he was a body coming off the bench. Brenner, all these rumors saying he wants to go back to Brazil. He wants to leave Cincinnati. He's not happy. We saw what he did last year, nothing. And to come out and just be the player that Cincinnati knew that they were getting from Brazil. So I think, maybe that's why I say Cincinnati's the best attacking trio, just because I'm surprised with how well the chemistry between those three forwards for Cincinnati are. But yeah, I mean, the Union's trio of Daniel Gazdag, Julian Carranza, and Mikel Ua, that's the most goals from a trio this season in MLS. And it's also important to note, too, that they're the only trio of teammates with at least 9 goals each in MLS this season. And it's the first time ever that the Union have had 3 players in a single season score 9+ goals. And I think it is also interesting, too, where My buddy Kyle sent me stats after the game. Love stats, you guys know. And I didn't realize that Corey Burke had 6 goals on the season. And what he sent me was the stats comparing Corey Burke and Casper Shabilko. And I'm like, dude, you are dunking on Casper right now. Casper's played more games, had more starts, more minutes, only 5 goals. We all know that Chicago team's a mess, but I would argue that Casper is in a better system in that Chicago team than the system in Philadelphia. I think the reason that Daniel Gazak, Julian Carranza, and Mikhail Uhre all work out so well is because they play a lot of these one-time passes. Their touches are really, really good. Their movement on and off the ball is fantastic, and that's something that Casper really doesn't bring. He doesn't have the movement of Julian Carranza or Mikhail Uhre. He's more of a target forward. And so you look at Chicago Fire where they play with wingers and Casper's the lone striker, the hold up striker. That's a perfect system for him. But where the Union want to play these quick transition passes, that doesn't work for Casper. And I know Corey Burke's essentially the same kind of player as Casper, where they're both hold up strikers, both tall players to aim at with crosses. But yeah, surprised to see Corey Burke has 6 goals on the season. I knew he scored a decent amount, but you got to give the guy credit, right? After all the times that we give him crap for missing chances, getting in the way of his teammates and everything, he's played better. I feel like the last couple games than most people are willing to give him credit for. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw Matt Djordje's article that he wrote with Corey Burke, but he did confirm that Union fans and Union fans specifically were giving him and Olivier Bizo racist messages on social media, and that's totally unacceptable. And well done for Corey coming out and being vocal about that. And I mean, that just has no need in sports where people behind fake accounts think that they're all big, bad, and tough, where they can racially abuse players, think, oh, yeah, nobody will find out who I am. And yeah, I'm a lot stronger than what I really am in person on social media because I'm hiding behind a fake account. And it's like, you would never say any of the things you're saying to these players in person. Yeah, and I would probably even guess you wouldn't even go to a game. You're just some sad internet loser troll that thinks that they matter. And so to see Corey Burke and Bizo celebrate the way that they did against Chicago with Martinez, I applaud those guys. And I mean, that's really sad. And there's people that call themselves quote unquote Union fans. You're not Union fans. I saw a lot of people when this happened speculating what this was in reference to. People saying, yeah, that there was racist remarks pointed at Corey. But these people that sent these racist DMs to Bizo and Burke, hopefully, we've seen it happen in England, especially in my team, Manchester United. A lot of racial abuse to Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, Paul Pogba, and just a list of so many other players in the Premier League. And people have investigated where these tweets came from, who's behind these fake profiles. And I think that maybe that's something that MLS, the Philadelphia Union, I know it costs a lot of resources, but that should be something that's done to find out who these people were that sent these racist tweets, these racist DMs on social media to these players. Find out who these people really are and then ban them from life from ever going to a Philadelphia Union game. Like I said, I doubt these people have ever been to a game, but let's make sure that they never get to a game. Because, I mean, again, these people are low lives, and I hope none of those people are listening to this podcast because, quite frankly, I don't want those people listening to this podcast, and I'm sure that those people aren't listening to this podcast. But if they are, yeah, I don't want those people associated with this podcast whatsoever. I don't want those people associated with the Philadelphia Union at all. People talk about gatekeeping. And I think this is definitely not gatekeeping. Like, we can all 100% agree that has no place in Philadelphia that has no place in MLS, that has no place in sports, in life. And so, again, just these people that think they're all big, bad, and strong on these social media platforms and these fake accounts. I mean, that is just sickening. But I know I went on a tangent there. But yeah, credit to Corey Burke. Great goal, terrible goalkeeping. And again, we'll break down the goalkeeping and the goals scored here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you just love to see Corey Burke. 6 goals on the season. Hey, Corey Burke could definitely get 10 goals this season. And you would have 4 players on the season have 10 plus goals, which I never thought was possible. And I wonder if that's ever happened in MLS. So that is something I think I'm going to look up after this podcast to see if there's been teammates throughout MLS's history that have scored 10 plus goals, if there's been 4 of them. So I'm definitely going to look that up, see if that's ever happened, because if not, that would be wonderful to see the Union do that feat. And especially Corey Burke, a player that's got so much crap. And you want to talk about adding value to your game. If Corey Burke gets 10 plus goals this season, primarily coming off the bench, there will be a lot of teams in MLS that will be making a call to acquire Corey Burke, in my opinion. But what else? Julian Carranza. It's so hard to talk about these goals when, I do a segment where I break down the goals, but yeah, he won't be long with MLS. I mean, he's a top player. His movement, his touch is excellent. DP strikers make a difference, and you see that with Mikael. You see that with Julian, and yeah, hopefully the Union just never look back when day comes when Julian Carranza is no longer a Philadelphia Union player, which is gonna happen one day, and it could potentially happen this winter. Never say never. Definitely, if he continues scoring next season, if he's still here, you would say it's going to be very hard to see Julian Carranza here for the 2024 season. But I feel like now we're just walking in circles because we all say the same thing about Kai Wagner, and year after year, Kai Wagner is still here. But you have a young striker compared to a defender. And we know strikers are definitely in higher demand than what defenders are. But I just hope that when the time comes for the Union to replace Julian Carranza, that they go out here and scout a DP striker in Argentina, in South America, just someplace in this world, get another DP striker in, because I feel like you can't be successful in the league without a DP striker. It's just the successful teams in MLS have DP strikers, and Jim Curtin was asked about the chemistry, what he's seeing between these 3 players, and Daniel Gaza, Carranza, and Mikael Ua.
Flashback to the beginning of the year, we were really good at keeping clean sheets and being tight. We're still good at keeping clean sheets, but we were a defensive team. We were struggling to create chances, and you remember me saying I wasn't concerned with that because I think we had the quality coming in. I think you saw Mikael get a little bit healthy, get used to his teammates, and the goal that he scores tonight is a game-changing goal because, if Jax is called a handball, if the one goes off the crossbar and in, all of a sudden, our backs are up against the wall here. But for him to score that goal a little bit against the run of play, that's what big forwards do. And that's what Mikael did for us tonight. Obviously drew the PK as well, which was huge. So between him, Julian, and Daniel, it's 3 players that can score goals a lot of different ways, that can all set up goals, which is really, really important too. A lot of the top strikers you see are, I'll just say it, pretty selfish, and you see 20-some goals, but you see maybe 2 assists. These guys are willing to pass and contribute in other ways, and that's what makes them dangerous. So I have no concern with our team defending, and I always say team defending because it's not just the back line, it's not just the midfield, it's the strikers as well. So we're going to be good defensively, and we're going to be hard to score against, I think, from here on out. But to see the goals hit the back of the net as much as we have so far has been impressive, and it's actually surprised me, to be honest.
And how many of you guys are surprised too? Honestly, how many people thought at the beginning of the season the Union were going to have potentially 3 players get 10 plus goals on the season? And like I was talking about with Corey Burke, potentially 4 with Corey at 6. And you can definitely see the case where Corey Burke could definitely get 10 goals. I mean, it is crazy to say that the Union could have 40 plus goals between 4 players. And then you have Ali Bedoya, who's on 5 goals, who, yeah, theoretically, if he gets hot, if the Union, like, what if the Union started to get a lot of penalties in the last couple of games? And we know Daniel Gazlag's the designated penalty taker, but what if the Union decide, all right, we're going to let Ali take some of these penalties to pad his stats and try to get him to 10 goals? Like, that would be insane to have 5 players on 10 plus goals. Like, surely that has never happened in MLS, right? Like I said, I'm going to look up to see if there's ever been a team that's had 4 teammates that have scored 10 plus goals in a regular season. I'd be shocked if there is, but I'd be even more shocked if there's a team in MLS that had 5 players score 10 plus goals. But yeah, Julian Carranza, Mikael Daniel Gazlag, that trio is just so fun to watch, and you'd love to see it. And yes, DC United suck. Roma sucked on the night. But I say it all the time, you can't control the teams you're supposed to play. You can't control the teams that are on your schedule. You just go ahead and play the games. And yes, it is nice to see the Union beat up on DC twice, beat up on Houston. And if anything, those kind of games are going to help the confidence of the strikers that, look, when we get chances, we're going to score. We're going to keep creating chances. And the ball is eventually going to find the back of the net. And so, yeah, these kind of games are definitely good for your confidence of your strikers. It's good for the confidence of the whole team. And I remember my match preview I wrote about where I was like, will the Union finally get their 6th away victory of the season, which would tie their single season record? And they did. They got that against DC United, 6 away victories. They did it in 2018, 2019. They definitely have the chance to break that this year with 7. And this team's just so consistently good, whether it's at home, whether it's out on the road. And Jim Curtin talked about it again after the game, said it's the hardest thing to do in sports to win on the road. And the players are extremely happy. You hear it in the locker room with the music, with the celebrations, and yeah, to see this team's undefeated at home at Subaru Park, but you feel confident that the Union are at least going to get a point on the road. And when you look at MLS Cup, I mean, if the Union don't win the Supporters Shield, and they'll have to go to LAFC if they get that far, and I'd feel confident that the Union could potentially win in LA if that is what MLS Cup comes down to, just because we saw what the Union did during the season in LA this year. And I know they didn't have Chiellini and Gareth Bale and whatnot on the team, but even then, like, the Union are still being consistent on the road, still getting results. And so, yeah, I feel good whether the Union are home or away, but I obviously feel more comfortable when the Union are at home. Let's go ahead and quickly review my keys to the game that I wrote about. I said, 1, you got to create more chances than you did against Dallas. 10 shots, only 3 on target against Dallas. We talked about that during the week. But for a team with the 3rd fewest points at home, 15, DC United we're talking about, and they've conceded 20 goals in 13 matches at home, and they were missing multiple starters out of this match. The opportunity was there for the Union to come away with points. Yes, right away. That's past 8 big chances created, 22 shots, 12 on target. Yeah, DC United suck, but again, when the points are there to be taken, you want to see the Union beat teams that they're supposed to beat, and that's exactly what they did. Number 2, I said quick transitions. Jim Curtin made it a point on Friday talking about, we want to quickly transition this ball from defense to offense. It's something that the Union have been good at most of the season, but we hadn't seen that the last 2 road matches against Cincinnati and Dallas. And again, the opportunity was there for the Union to have a big night to really transition that ball. And we saw that. Fancy one-time flicks between the front 3, between Jose Martinez and Jack McGlynn playing line-splitting passes up to the attackers. It was fantastic all around from the whole team. And like Jim Curtin said, it can't just be one person that's good on the night. It has to be the whole team. And the whole team was excellent, transitioning from defense to offense all night long. And then I said, control the midfield, because the last time out against DC United, who was controlling that midfield for the Philadelphia Union? That was Jose Martinez. And he dominated the game again on the night against DC United. 1 assist, 1 block shot, 4 out of 6 dribbles completed, 6 passes into the final third, 7 out of 8 accurate long balls, 5 recoveries, 8 out of 14 ground duels won. This guy was everywhere in the midfield for the Union. And we talk about Jack McGlynn's passing, but Jose Martinez's passing was there on the night. Could have had a couple of assists if the Union could have finished their chances, Julian Carranza. But a great performance, and hearing the commentators for DC United call Jose Martinez the best 6 in the league. That is right. And yes, I've been critical here the last couple of weeks of Jose Martinez on the podcast. But when Jose is playing with that confidence, playing the way he did against DC United, that is why he cannot be taken out of the starting 11. That is why he's the best number 6 in MLS. But it's all about the consistency. And if he can play like that the rest of the season into the playoffs, the Philadelphia Union have a true chance to win MLS Cup this season, I truly believe. But let's go ahead and talk about the 3 stars on the night. So obviously, I just told you guys one of my stars right there. Jose Martinez comes in at number 3. We'll go backwards this time. I know I always go from 1 to 2. Number 2 on the night is Daniel Gazdag. 1 goal, 2 assists, 2 chances created, 8 passes into the final third, 2 interceptions, 2 ball recoveries. And again, what else can be said about Daniel Gazdag, Julian Carranza, and Mikael Uhre? You guys saw it with your eyes. You guys know the chemistry between these guys. When Daniel Gazdag is getting a lot of touches on the ball, when he can play these 1-2 flicks with Daniel, with Mikael, good things are going to happen. And more times than not, Daniel Gazdag is going to be one of your better players on the night. And in my opinion, that's why he's number 2. And then obviously, number 1 on the night, Julian Carranza. 3 goals, could have had 4 or 5, 1 assist, 3 chances missed, which is huge. Like I said, I mean, he could have had 6 goals if his shots weren't blocked or if he just didn't outright miss the shot. 2 interceptions, 3 ball recoveries, 4 to 5 ground duels won, 6 out of 7 aerials won. And this guy is... Oh, man. You don't see strikers. You really do not see strikers play defense like Julian Carranza. And again, it's funny. I'll keep throwing myself under the bus, just like a lot of Union fans. When it was announced the Union were taking him on loan from Inter Miami, people were upset. And the only thing that people said about Julian was, he's a defensive striker. That's pretty much it. But he's been both offensive and defensive this year for the Union. And 12 goals on the year. And to see him not only score goals, but to work his butt off defensively to win the ball back, to transition the counterattack. Like I said, guys, enjoying while we have him, because he's not going to be here for that much longer. I truly believe that. But let's go ahead and look at the goal breakdown. Again, I'm looking on YouTube, so I don't get to see the full build up like I normally do when I record the games. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the first goal. This came from a turnover by Daniel Gazdag at the midfield. He's going to go ahead and find Julian Carranza wide open on the right side of the field, passes the ball to Julian, and Mikael Uhre is going to be in a 1v1 situation here against Victor Poulsen, who is not a center back. He's a defensive midfielder. And so Julian's going to go ahead and play a fantastic cross into the box. Mikael's going to go ahead and just chest this ball down. And, I mean, really, the chest down is what makes this play. And then he's able to use his strength to hold up Poulsen, eventually holds him off, sets himself up in a good position to hit the shot strong into the right side of the bottom corner of the net. Fantastic placement, but it all came down to Mikael Uhre chesting this ball down and then able to just use his strength to keep Victor Poulsen off of him. And just a fantastic play that started with Daniel Gazdag to Julian Carranza, seeing the front 3 just interconnect with ease, know exactly where each other are going to be. And are we surprised that the first goal of the night happened because of these three players? You go ahead and look. And the second goal that happened was a penalty kick from Daniel Gazdag. But this play is going to be played down to Mikael Uhre, who finds himself in a 1v1 situation once again. He has Alfaro just locked up exactly where he wants him. Mikael Uhre is going to go ahead and turn away from goal. He's not even facing towards goal. He's turning away. There's no reason for Alfaro to foul him here. And yes, there's contact in the box. Ted Uncle says no penalty at first, but they go to VAR and they eventually give it. Clearly gets Mikael's leg first. I think maybe Mikael went down a little bit easy. Maybe he sold this, but it is a penalty for me because the defender plays Mikael's foot first, doesn't play the ball. And so when that happens, it's going to be a penalty 9 out of 10 times. I don't want to say 10 out of 10 times because the referees aren't always consistent, even though we have VAR. And then obviously Daniel Gazdag is up for the penalty, scores a penalty kick. And so we go ahead in the second half of the game. This starts from Romo. Terrible goalkeeping all night long from him. And so Romo is going to go ahead and play out of the back. Just kicks it straight down the middle on the ground to nobody. Ali Bedoya is first to the ball. Is going to go ahead and pass this ball to Mikael Uhre. Uhre finds Daniel Gazdag in a ton of space. And what's interesting too is Jack McGlynn's in a ton of space out left. Daniel Gazdag could have slotted that ball to Jack McGlynn. McGlynn could have potentially have had a shot. But I think ultimately too, and maybe Daniel Gazdag had a quick look up, but Romo is completely off of his line here. Daniel Gazdag could have potentially tried to trip the goalkeeper, but he doesn't. He's unselfish, looks for the pass to Julian Carranza, and Julian Carranza has a great touch with his right foot, and then he has a curling shot for the third goal of the night. That is definitely the goal of the night. One of the best goals we've seen the Union score this season. And then you get a little appearance there from Luke McLung from the Dupree brothers. Love to see it. He looked back at AJ, his brother. And credit to the DC camera people to pick up Luke there celebrating that goal. But fantastic touch. What really set this whole thing up for Julian Carranza. And you just have a beautiful curled ball in the back of the net for Carranza. The fourth goal from the Union, this all started with Corey Burke's hustle. And again, I mean, yes, we can all, talk about, Corey Burke being disappointing, getting in the way of his teammates. But when Corey Burke plays well, you got to give this guy credit. And so DC United have a bad pass backwards. Corey Burke's right on this, is hustling, really pressuring the defender. And as soon as the defender turns towards goal, Corey Burke's right on him. Like I said, forces his turnover. Corey Burke uses his strength to keep off the defender. Corey finds the pass to Julian Carranza. Julian Carranza is going to go ahead and find Daniel Gazdag. Now, right here, I think if Daniel Gazdag would have not had this ball taken away, he would have slotted the ball to Jack McGlynn, who would have had a clear shot on goal. I think Jack McGlynn probably would have scored that goal just because he was so wide open. The goalie had been so shaky on the night. But Corey Burke, as soon as that ball is taken away from Daniel Gazdag, Corey Burke's fastly react to the loose ball, has a powerful shot, strike the post, and the ball falls straight to Julian Carranza, who nutmegs the goalkeeper. Again, terrible goalkeeping on the night for the goalkeeper. And I know I'm definitely going to say that again on Julian Carranza's hat trick. I mean, the goalkeeper tried to play out of the back, a poor giveaway. And it wasn't the first time, too, on the night that we saw just the goalkeeper try to play out of the back and then he gives the ball away. That's exactly what he did here on the hat trick for Julian Carranza. And it's funny, too. The cameras weren't even expecting this. They weren't even following this play initially. It's great movement from Julian Carranza to intercept. And then you have an empty net, wide open net. And it's a goal for Julian Carranza to get his hat trick, his second hat trick of the season. And both of those hat tricks came against DC United. And then in the sixth goal of the night, this was, yes, the bad passes out of the back from the goalkeeper are terrible, but the positioning here from the goalkeeper on the sixth goal, you have a pass from Jose Martinez to Jack McGlynn. Jack McGlynn with a beautiful outside of the boot pass with his left. And Corey Burke's going to one-time finish this. It's a fast transition from the Union. And as soon as Jack McGlynn passes that ball to Corey Burke picks his head up, sees the goalkeeper completely off of his line. Yeah, I mean, he's almost up to the top of the 18. What he's doing, I have no clue. Jack McGlynn puts enough weight on this pass where Corey Burke's able to one-time finish it, curl it around the goalkeeper, and be in the back of the net. But I made a tweet and said, I haven't seen goalkeeping this bad since, well, the last time the Union took on DC United. And who was goalkeeper on the day? It was Romo. When you have Ochoa, who spent a decent amount of GAM to acquire from Real Salt Lake on your bench, why you're not playing him, I don't know. DC United, their scouting has got to be so poor, where they went out, spent an international roster spot on a backup goalkeeper when they had Bill Hamid, and the goalkeeper has a performance like this. I mean, this is the type of goalkeeping performance where Euro snobs look at it and say, "Oh, this is typical MLS." Like this, that's probably his last time ever playing in goal, I would think, for DC United, let alone in MLS. I mean, if he gets another chance in goal, I will be shocked because these goals could have been preventable, but it's just poor play from the goalkeeper all around. But let's go ahead and talk about Blunder of the Week. And so, Blunder of the Week is going to go to DC United fans. And so, allegedly, DC United fans keyed, broke windows, cracked windshields, broke mirrors off cars, slashed tires of Union fans. And so, these people who had their cars attacked had Union stickers on the cars, they had PA plates. And I haven't seen anything on social media that has said for a fact that it was DC United fans that did this. Nobody on social media is coming forward saying, yeah, they saw DC United fans do this. People aren't coming forward saying, oh, they saw the people that did this. And so it could have been anyone for sure. But where these people parked, allegedly there's a strong police patrol in that area. And so I'm not sure how these people were able to get away with this. But, Philadelphia Union stickers, PA plates, Philadelphia Union, DC United playing each other, it makes sense that it would be DC United fans attacking Union fans' cars. And MLS wants fans traveling for away days. And if this is, in fact, DC United fans that attacked Union cars, I mean, this is just so pathetic. And how can you tell people to travel for away games? How can fans feel safe going to away days when there's fear of their property getting destroyed? And unfortunately, a couple idiots can ruin the experience for everyone. These idiots are going to make the DC United fan base look bad, even if majority of the DC United fans are welcoming, cause no issues. People are going to get the perception that, oh, if I go to DC, I'm going to go and have my car attacked by DC United fans, which, probably isn't going to be the case because, like I said, majority of the people are fine. But how can MLS want fans going to these away games if, in fact, it was DC United fans that attacked Union fans' cars? Because fans aren't going to feel safe going to DC because of this. fans aren't going to trust DC United fans. They're not going to be trusted. When in reality, it's just a couple of people that ruin the whole experience. The fan base as a whole, I don't think they're bad, but all it takes is a couple people, and now they have the perception that all DC United fans are like this. But like I said, there is no proof that it was DC United fans that attacked these people's cars. Yes, it is likely because these people had PA plates and Union stickers on their cars. And a bunch of DC United fans left this game early because their team was getting blown out. And so you could see why DC United fans would do this. They're angry and they see Philadelphia Union stuff, and so they want to go ahead and take it out. And I saw after the game, sending in the press box, DC United fans weren't starting anything, but like they were giving the finger and everything, saying, "Go F yourselves," to the Union fans that were all chanting and everything. And, I feel like, that's fine and everything. But, yeah, you could see how you get a couple of drunk fans leaving the game early, and they say, "Oh, there's Philadelphia Union cars right here. Let's go and tackle them." You can see how that would all be possible. But regardless, it is a joke, an absolute joke, that people feel the need to destroy other people's property to begin with. I mean, like, what's the point of walking up to somebody's car and busting out the mirrors, the windows, slashing tires? There is no point in that. So there you have it, Blunder of the Week. And if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, go ahead and follow @FreeKickPod. Love to see the Twitter account and Instagram accounts still continuing to grow, even though I'm not really that active on Instagram. Don't really know what I'm doing with Instagram, but people are following the account, so I definitely appreciate that. But if you guys haven't checked out the website, please check it out, thefreekick.net. And wherever you guys get your podcasts, The Free Kick is where you can find your podcast on all major platforms. Going to try my best to get somebody on from Colorado this week, because I really, really, really want somebody in for Colorado, and then we do our typical review episode, and then after that, we'll be at episode 200. And like I said, I want to do a Twitter Spaces on Sunday, so yeah, I'll probably record my review episode on that Sunday, and then right after I do that episode solo, then I want to go ahead and do a Twitter Spaces around 8 p.m., I'm thinking, on Sunday. And would love to have so many people come up on Twitter Spaces and talk about the upcoming Atlanta United game that's on the 31st. And I think that's a huge milestone to hit. 200 episodes for the podcast, where, if I'm honest, I don't know if, I don't think how many episodes I'm on. I just do it out of a hobby and everything. And to see that, 200 episodes is right there. Really makes me happy. And again, just a huge thank you goes to each and every single one of you guys that listen to this podcast week in, week out, whether you guys just started getting into the podcast, whether you only listen to one episode. And I know this was a longer episode than what they normally are, but there was a lot to talk about. And again, shout out to all the Union fans that went down to DC. Shout out to the people that support the podcast, support the local writers, the other podcasters, support this podcast. Just you guys are the best, and I hope you guys know how much you mean to people that cover this team. Yeah, your support, listening, reading our stuff, it truly means a lot. And seeing you guys travel anywhere and everywhere to support the Philadelphia Union, it's incredible. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.